That's like saying I got two jobs, each earning $10 an hour. So what does that mean? I make $20
I
an
make
hour.
$20 an hour. Exactly.
No, you don't, because you got to work those two jobs separately. You can't be at the same place at the same time.
Where I come from, that's called fuzzy math.
Good morning. Welcome everybody to episode 10 of the DM Florida Real Estate with Robert Morillo, associate with Team Aroa at Compass, license number BK3373543 with extraordinaire John Sepulveda. What's going on?
Good morning, bro. John Sepulveda, MLS 1309244 coming at you. Episode 10, man. Wow, it's going by quickly.
Yeah, week two. It is March 31st. Tomorrow's April Fool's Day. And today we're coming at you with Finance Fridays.
Let's do it. Let's start the topic. A lot of stuff to talk about today.
It's the favorite day of the week all across America, right? TGIF?
Hell yeah. TGIF is the best.
What do we got today, John? Talk to me.
So we got it could be a choppy day in the market. We have PCE, which is Personal Consumption Expenditure Report. So that's just that's a number that the Fed looks at, and that's kind of where inflation gets tracked. So today, remember I talked about last week, the first episode kind of showed the charts and gave the dates, and May 10th and so on and so forth, right? That's kind of the date on the calendar of when the report comes out. That's going to begin to provide positive numbers on the report that they look at, right? So this report is not expected. It's the numbers from last year are like they're a bit high, meaning for what we're trying, for the inflation, for the flight on inflation, this month's report from last year is high. So it's really hard to make any progress on it. That's why the May 10th it's an important date, because there's room for progress based on the data from last year, right? So this month, the market, they're expecting the expected number is to drop from 5.4 to 5.1%. The headline number, right? So that's what they're expecting. That's the headline the market is expecting and everybody's expecting.
Mm-hmm.
The data seems to point to, or at least the data I'm looking at, it's pointing to that number could come in higher, 5.2, 5.3. So not as low as expectations. If that happens, the market's going to react to it. The bond market's going to react to it, and it's going to jack up interest rates. So if anybody listens to this today before rates come out and you haven't lock your loan, because rates could have there's a good chance that rates are going to go up today and stay up a little bit. So if you haven't lock your loan, lock your rates.
So to break it down in the most simplest terms, personal consumption expenditure report.
Expenditures, right? That comes out every month.
Okay, it comes out every month.
And it's the consumer expenses, like how consumers spend money, and that's a sign of inflation and prices.
It comes out every month for that month, or it comes out every month for the previous month. So today's report is based on February.
Correct, and I don't know the exact dates, but it's the February PCE report is what's coming out today. Yeah.
Gotcha. So next month, the end of next month will be March's.
Yes. Well, it's not. Again, I don't have the exact dates, because the next piece. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the whole month of March, and it just takes a couple of weeks to compile the data, because the May 10th is the next reading, because there's PCE and PCI, several reports that they look at.
Mm-hmm.
So they switch. There's just every week there's a different data points that come out.
Gotcha. So previous month, is that the index?
No, this is the report. PCI is the index. Correct.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. What the PCI is?
PCI is the index, correct.
Okay.
price
And
consumer index report, and that's I believe is next week or the week after. That I don't have the schedule in front of me, like the calendar, to look at the dates.
gotcha.
So
Okay.
this one is the data on this report is the previous data is not as conducive to positive market outlook when they do the year over year reporting, comparing, you know, last month's data to 2022 February data. So when you compare those two, the year over year, this month is going to be tight, and the data is kind of pointing to it could not be as, so they're expecting a number, right? So now, so here's what the market's doing, right? They're saying, okay, the Fed's going to pause. He said at the last meeting that there was room, right? He gave the final rate what they expect to be, and that includes another quarter point rate hike that's expected at the May 4th meeting, right? So the market's kind of expecting that, but I mean that is already baked into the market, that extra rate hike, but people really feel that he's pausing, that he's going to pause because of what he spoke last week. They're okay, he's going to pause, and then there's the pivot talk again. You know, people are expecting him to pivot, and he's going to pause, and right, that's kind of where the market's at. So if when this report's come out, they're expecting 5.4, and the news, they just kind of read the headline and boom, and that's it. And so they're expecting 5.4. If that comes in at 5.3, 5.2, it's going to be lower than expected, and the market will be disappointed. So that will create some pressure on bonds, and hopefully rates don't go up. But that's kind of the subject today. So that'll be the topic. Market's been kind of iffy, and stock market went up yesterday, but it could be a messy day. So we'll find out on Monday.
Yeah.
On top of that, we got the updated. We talked about it yesterday briefly, but the numbers came out. So the Q4, they updated the GDP numbers
From last year,
the fourth quarter.
2022. Okay.
Correct. And they were revised. First, they started at 2.9, then they were revised to 2.7, and they revised them yesterday to 2.4. So the final reading for Q4 was 2.4. Right. Okay. So that's lower. And then the data that inside of the data, consumer spending was a big number, a big drop in that initial report, right? So that was in December. That means in December that people spent less money, right? That's not what they had projected. And then there were some figures that came out in January, like the retail report, and it showed a lot of activity. But now that they're boiling out all the fat and they're looking at the data, they adjusted those numbers, so it's down, right? So 2.4. So that's Q4. That carries on into Q1, right? So if the expectation for Q1 is 3.2. I said this week 3.5, but I looked at the real number. Yes, it's 3.2. That's kind of the expected Q1 GDP results, right?
That we're not gonna know until the end of Q2.
No, it'll be 3 weeks or so. It's sometime in April. We'll get the initial one, which it'll be will be inflated, and it won't be. But the expected is 3.2, and the Fed's projection for the end of the year is 0.04. We talked about that yesterday, right? So we said the curve, right? So if the final number is 0.4, and we are at 3.2. That means the next 3 quarters are going to be negative 2.8. Right?
So, as a financial coach, how do you help individuals, I guess, kind of future-proof their finances to where these economic data points don't have an effect on their personal circumstances?
It really, like, I don't, there's really no need to mix both of them too much, because if I was doing financial advising, like investment advising, but I don't do any of that stuff. I don't give people financial advice. I focus more on the fundamentals, the
personal side. Yeah.
The personal, like the fundamentals, set up their basics. So there's really no much correlation. This is just useless information that I have in my head that well, not useless. I mean, obviously it's very important information, and it comes in handy with the mortgage part of it, right? But the coaching, when I'm helping somebody with their finances, it's just that I don't even have this conversation with a buyer because it's not. I mean, it'd just be too much information. Like I would.
So let's talk about the benefits of having this information, because I think the most important thing, first and foremost, is understanding the patterns. You get what I'm saying? Like, not everybody knows that the Fed is looking at things retroactively, right? And that, you know, the whole analogy about the front of the roller coaster and the back of the roller coaster, that's not common knowledge. Like, people use common sense, quote unquote, right? But what's common to you is not common to the common folk.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the main benefit of understanding the patterns and the way the market moves, you know, in the way that you looking at it through your lens?
Well, I mean, it's what I said at the beginning. I said, hey, if you have a loan, you haven't locked it, heads up, man, because rates could be going up. I mean, that's the information that a buyer should have, and a realtor and an agent should have from their lender.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's just, you know, because the realtor has enough work to do, right? They got to figure out everything, keep track of the whole housing sort of transaction, right? That part of it, right? And obviously the loan officer has to worry about the same thing, the financial part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But both parties, there's data that affects the whole transaction, which is sort of the financial situation. So when a buyer reaches out, that's why it's like, what's the rate today? I mean, it's just, there's so much more than the rate, and people don't realize that. Largest investment in their lifetime. And I mean, yes, the rate is important. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say it's minimize the importance of it, but there's just so much more to it. It's just, okay, I put an offer on a house. What should I do? Should I wait or should I lock? What's going on? I mean, so you can't, as an LO, you can't tell a buyer you have to lock today or wait. You can't tell people that, right? But you can give information and say, hey, here's the data, right? There's a report coming out today. Last year's data doesn't look that hot. There's a good possibility that rates, the bond market's not going to react well and rates are going to go up. And this is a conversation with somebody who just put a house under agreement and has not locked their rate yet, and it's closing in the next, let's say, 30 days.
30 days, yeah.
Days, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a conversation to be had. So, you know, me, right, in 2008 or prior to me kind of going down this path and educating myself in sort of this environment and this type of to have this conversation, I was just a regular LO. What's the rates? Oh, you know, the rates of this, and you know, you keep an eye on the market, but you don't really keep track of and read all this data and spend all these hours looking at this stuff. So, you know, I wasn't doing a bad job, right? But I could have been doing a better job, right? I could have more information to provide. So that's a benefit for a buyer, and that's a benefit for an agent. Having somebody, a professional, kind of know what's happening. I mean, it's like when you go to the doctor, right? And there's a new treatment, a new medicine that's out there, and your doctor doesn't really know about it. So he continues to prescribe you the old medicine, but there's a new medicine that's much better. I mean, it's kind of the same. It's kind of the same concept.
I like that because it's true. There's so many ongoing developments that if you're uneducated, if you don't stay educated and up to date with the information, then you're not prescribing your clients the right treatment for what they need at that point in time.
Correct. And that extends to the agent, like that market report I sent, the weekly market report I sent. That's gold right there, because it's really like, that's, MBS Highway is where, I get a good chunk of my data from MBS Highway. It's a subscription, it's a marketing firm that provides the information to LOs. Right. And, there's daily updates and there's charts and all these stuff I show. It's from that. Right. So it's a tool that I pay for to be able to utilize. So that information is there. And then the newsletter comes out and I can share that with it, because the point is they provide me they're the source of information. They gather all the data, and that's not the only source I use, but that's one of at least the pieces that I send out are from MBS. Right. So that marketing report that market report that I send every week, it's gold. I mean, if you as an agent, you take that and you'll have the answers to to be able to have a conversation with a buyer when they ask you about why is the market this or what should I do, that newsletter I sent out has at least nuggets that you can start a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And then say, hey, let me put you in contact with John and he'll explain more to you and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So it's just, it's meant to be a tool for agents to be able to take that information and then extend it to their buyers and have a conversation with their buyers about the market.
Yeah.
Doesn't make it an expert on the market. It just gives you the headlines and the main points that you can answer a buyer's question.
So let's say, okay, if you don't mind sharing your secrets, because you already shared one of your resources, right? On a day-to-day basis, what is your sequence of like where you seek out your information? So like you start with MBS, then you go to Forbes, then you go to like what is your sequence of
I mean, my go-to is MBS Highway. Like
okay.
That's my initial, and then again, that's just a service that, you pay for and you have access to it. They get the data. Barry Habib, the guy is unbelievable. I mean, this guy is
beyond the sun.
He knows, like this guy's unbelievable. He really is. I mean, there's some of the stuff he's been saying stuff that's since November of last year that, you know what I mean? That he's just pointing to the data. It's all data. Like you have to really be able to see data, visualize data. I love that stuff. I love looking at charts. I just, that's how I'm wired. So to me, that's the perfect situation. So I list, you know what I mean? That's kind of the daily dose you get of that. And then the rest is just, it really, there's so much information. So, you hear people, I just listen to interviews, I hear people's opinions, and there's a lot of people that have different opinions. I mean, there's people that, and they're looking at the same data and they're going completely different ways, completely. So, you kind of, I don't have MBS is my main source because MBS Highways, what their purpose is to provide, what they do is provide loan officers with data, so that they can be a source of information and education to buyers and agents, right? So it's geared specifically towards loan officers. It's not about investing. It's not about the stock, like the Dow Jones, and it's not about that. It's reading charts, and it's really main. They really what they look at more is mortgage-backed securities, S&P 500, and the 10-year bond. Those are the three kind of charts to kind of monitor that.
So those outside factors that have an impact on what's
on mortgage, on mortgage rates, right? And the possibility of rates going up, rates going down, lock alerts, markets turning. We got a lock alert. Hey, heads up! The MBS, the mortgage-backed securities, are going down in price. When that happens, bond usually goes up, and the bond market usually goes up, and then rates increase, right? So there's that type of information. It's just these alerts, because you don't have time to be sitting there and just looking at the market, but that's what they do. So we get alerts logged, and then we in turn we have buyers that are on, haven't locked it. Hey, heads up, you should lock. The market could turn. I mean, that type of information is valuable, right? So that's kind of the, let's say the
baseline,
right? Everybody that signs up for this service kind of gets that information. Alerts a lock. Oh, hey, lock your rate, right? So, I don't know how many people just do that, or how many people do what I do, which is go deep into it and not only read what they provide, but take what they provide and just go further and deeper into it and pick up more data and listen to more stuff. Like yesterday, I was listening to a financial channel. I'll stay away from saying which ones, so I don't, right?
I was gonna ask you, that was gonna be my next question. Like, do you watch the news or?
Well,
Or you said you were listening. Does that mean on the radio?
No, on TV. So I was watching the news channel, not new, like financial news.
Yeah.
I kind of unplugged from the regular
news. The regular news.
Yeah, I unplugged from
devastating news.
Yeah. I unplugged from that a long time ago because there's nothing.
Not the political news.
Correct. I mean, the deal is,
politics tie into it, but
they tie into it a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, primarily financial.
Yeah, but it's a financial news, and so there's a couple of people that I follow, like, and listen to their podcasts, read the newsletters. There's just a couple of different people that I just like their style, I like what they have to say. So one of them was on when they yesterday morning when the GDP came out. Like, it's at 8:30 in the morning, so that's kind of when they do this. So I was watching, and they have a panel and what they're blah blah blah, and they talk about it. So this woman, Stephanie Colombo, I think it's her name. I listen to her a lot, right? She's like, she's been a guest in a couple of podcasts, and I like her. I like how she communicates. So she's one of the ones I listen to. I saw her, I'm like, oh, so I turned the volume up to listen to what she had to say. And she's been saying, for over a year, like, crash is coming, like all the data, that's kind of same type of data points that I've been kind of following and reading. So I see it. I see what she's saying, and I don't know if I agree with her. Like, I agree is the right word, because who am I to agree with anything? Like, I'm just, but I like the data she's providing. It seems to me that it's useful, and it matches the charts, right? It matches the data points. And she brought up a point yesterday that nobody's really keeping an eye on.
Mm-hmm.
I have read, here and there about it, but there's not too much sort of conversation, and is the debt. So, we're talking about the banking crisis, right? We got the banking crisis going on. We got the pressure on the banks. Now people kind of forgot about it. Oh, it's all sad. We're good, right? But that has.
Are you saying consumer debt or bank debt?
Corporate debt.
Corporate debt. Okay.
Right. So remember, yes, I talked about commercial.
Mm-hmm.
And the 5 year
what's anticipated. Yeah, exactly.
2023, they're adjusting. So there's one pressure, like, now, but the other sort of that she's brought it up in the past. I heard it. So yesterday she was like, well, here's the GDP, and here's what's happening in this year, and here's what I see. And she's saying it's going to be a debacle this year. Like, it's going to be bad. It's the drop in the market. So, and she's talking about the corporate debt that's due, right? So there's this. I don't get too much into this part of the data, because again, I'm not investing. I don't give investment advice, so I don't really get into that part of doing the research. It's just sort of what I really focus more on the mortgage kind of stuff, right? But I have read slightly about it, previously. There's companies called zombie companies.
Okay.
I don't know I just kind of know what I read, but there's basically companies that are on the market that are basically on paper. Like, they're companies that are there.
They're recorded, but they're not really
making money. They're zombie. They're on paper, right? So and they function okay when rates are zero. And so it's companies that are doing, like, they're real companies. They're not fake companies, but they're not really making any profits, and they're really not. They're kind of just barely surviving.
I think those are definitely the majority of those. And correct me if I'm wrong, unless you're talking about full-blown corporate. The majority of those companies are like, because on a personal level, there's a lot of people who are encouraged to, like, oh, open an LLC. That's the first step. So a lot of people open up LLCs, and they may not do anything with it for the first couple of years, because they don't.
These are companies that are, like, these are public companies.
Okay, you're talking about corporate entities.
That
are open, but they're just not.
Yeah, and they have their leverage. They have some debt, but they're barely kind of staying afloat.
They're
barely making it, and they're leveraged, and they have debt, but it's very low interest debt.
It's kind of like, it blows my mind with, like, companies like Ruby Tuesdays and let's say Kmart. It's like, it blows my mind when you get to that level and then you shut down all of a sudden.
Well, because there's a history of, like, right, the stuff that's been happening, right? And again, I don't follow it enough, and I don't know enough about to like have, like, explain it in a way that makes sense to people. But there's this set of there's a group of companies in the market that
they exist.
But
they're just there and
barely making it.
Is like the term zombie says it all.
Exactly, right? So now they're barely making it at, like, close to zero or very low interest rates.
Yeah.
the premise of what what this lady's saying is that
The Walking Dead.
that corporate debt it's due, right? It renews this year, right? So just like an ARM, an adjustable rate mortgage, kind of the same thing. I'm not sure what the terms are. Again, how long? If the commercial, I know it's 5 years, so that stuff started in 2018. The corporate debt, I'm not sure when it started, how long it is, but it's due. And they put up a chart of all the different sectors that have debt that is due this year. So one of them, energy. It's a big. It's a big.
You're talking about energy companies.
Energy companies,
and so, it's so crazy you say that, because there's a lot of companies, energy companies, that don't last more than 5 years.
Well, just wait until see what happens, right? So they gave the chart. So energy was one of, like, on the top of the chart, right? I forget how many billion, 190 something billion, some crazy number of debt that's adjusted this year, right? So if the debt was, so that, and she specifically explained about the energy company. So they get leverage. They have this, they have, just like banks, similar to banks, right? They take their money, they invest the money in bonds and all these things. And, again, I don't know all the details and all the intricacies to properly explain how it is, but they're leveraged with debt, and it's at a lower interest payment. And now that it adjusts, I mean, it's doubling. So whatever payment they had before, it's doubling now, right? When it adjusts. And it doesn't matter, if you're, I don't know, Warren Buffett, or Apple, that have, how many years, reserves in the emergency fund, that's a different story. But if you're a company that it's already struggling and scraping by, and suddenly your debt payment doubles, it's a big hit. And she said a lot of companies are not going to be able to sustain that. And then she followed up and said, January and February corporate bankruptcies are at record numbers the first 2 months of the year. Not personal bankruptcies.
Yeah, the corporate
bankruptcies.
Yeah,
they're like their first 2 months of the year, like they were paid. So that's a sign. So that's coming, and that's building up, right? So you got the commercial kind of crisis. You have the people taking money out from the small and regional banks. $1 trillion is taken out. You have this corporate debt that's building up. It's going to be due this year, right? So it's a perfect storm that's kind of brewing and building. And then you take, who's on first, right?
Quick question. With your data sources, do they point out an increase of mergers and acquisitions for these situations? Like,
I haven't seen it. I haven't paid attention to it. I'm sure that data's there, but I haven't, again, because I'm not investing. I'm not looking for investment opportunities or things like that. So I just picked the information that has to do with mortgage related items, because I only utilize this information in this means, right? I don't do anything else with this information other than talk to buyers and talk to agents.
Have you seen why I'm gonna ask you, this might be a more difficult question. Why not? Why are you not investing? Have you seen opportunity to invest and it kind of piqued your interest?
No, the reason why it's not. So again, prior to getting, all right, let me back up. I don't deal with things that I don't know anything about.
Okay.
Right.
Which
and it's never,
not to invest into anything you don't understand.
That you don't understand, right? And I've never really, to be honest with you, it never interested me. It's not fun for me. It's not interesting for me. It's just not my thing. So, it's never appealed to me. I mean, it never has. I try to look at it, but I don't have enough information, enough knowledge to so it's just the reason why that's just not something that appeals to me. And then
you have a lot of knowledge, and it seems that you have a lot of access to the knowledge that's needed.
Touche. And if and I'm sure if I studied and dedicated myself to doing it, I could do it. It's just, and because I'm a loan officer and I've been a loan officer for so long, I have to be very careful, right? I can't give people tax advice. I can't give people investment advice.
Of course.
So I don't have that conversation. I don't go that way, just to keep things, all legit and transparent. So it's just it's a personal, nothing other than it's just not my thing. So, but the data is, and again, because I do like to see data, and I have a way of like understanding and looking at a chart and looking at a graph and getting it, and I visualize what I see it. So it's just when I realized it was that, I would go, and I kind of went down this rabbit hole, and I started learning, and I just got hooked on it. That's like I'm reading what's going on, what's happening. I watch the news and I see what they say, and I'm like, these people are so wrong and it's so off. Not because I know better. The data doesn't show what they're saying. So it's cool to be able to watch something on TV and have somebody say something on TV and be able to say, well, that's a lie, or that's not true, or that's
so what? Yeah, because what happens is you're able to discern the difference, because you're reading the actual data points, and then versus people who are feeding into the news and what's being put in front of them. They're relying solely on that information, solely on what they see, solely on what information is being passed along, like the game of telephone. Somebody watches it on the news, that's the only information that they have reference to. And then when they relay it to someone else, they translate it wrong, even more wrong.
Even more.
And as it spreads, it just gets diluted into the most wrong information.
And not only that, so that's one part of it. And I would call that the natural cycle of things to happen.
Yeah.
That's the natural way to happen. What makes sort of matters worse is not all the time, right? But when it's related to this subject matter that I happen to be paying attention to or studying, it's incredible how much false information, not wrong, false information comes from the top.
Oh, gotcha.
It's scary and it's sad. How much like just not true information comes up, and how much, it's sad. Like I'm telling you, I've seen some stuff that like there was a report, and I won't say it, name names and do it publicly. I won't, but there was in the February report with the jobs report, that 517,000 number that came out. Yeah, February. That's kind of what set like that shifted, right? The market was going one way in January. So January 31st, the market was going one way. And February 2nd or 3rd, I forget the date, that jobs report was a Friday. So whatever that Friday that was, that jobs report, the jobs report came out, and it had 517,000 new jobs added to the economy that came out of nowhere, and nobody was expecting that. ADP report came out that Wednesday before. So ADP comes out Wednesday, and the other Joel's job report comes out on Friday. ADP reports, ADP, right? The payroll company. That's a survey that they do, and they provide the data based on the payroll company that they have. And ADP is one of the largest payroll companies, so they have a lot of data, right? So they give out a report. They were expecting 196,000 jobs created. The Joel's report, which is a different way of reporting, and it's a survey, and they call people and ask them if they're working, and there's a different method of,
like a census.
Kinda, yeah. But they do it every month. They're always closely tied, the numbers to each other. ADP, Joel's, Wednesday, Friday, Wednesday, Friday, Wednesday, Friday. Well, that weekend, the last week in January, first week in February, 195 was the ADP expected, and I forget, or I apologize. ADP reported 195,000 on Wednesday. The expectation was that it was going to be a similar number to that on the Jolts on Friday, and the Jolts was 517,000, and that's
517,000
new jobs.
New jobs,
right?
That's expected based off of their surveys.
Best of that previous month, there were 517,000 new jobs added, like new people working.
Oh, okay, that was
job openings.
Okay,
right?
okay.
And ADP's number was 195,000 for the same, one was 195,000, another one 517. So 300,000.
2.5 times.
Huh?
2.5 times more.
Correct, right? So that's a huge difference. So that day, like the market and then if you recall, January rates had dropped and things were kind of, people kind of started popping in, and the sales in January kind of went up a little, real estate people, and then February 3rd, boom, and then February rates went up again and went up like a point, like in 1 point in like a couple of days. The market just tanked and went up, and nobody knew where this thing was coming from. And nobody knew, like on Monday or Tuesday at MBS Highway, they broke it down and like, okay, here's where we found where the data comes from, and they made some adjustments to seasonal adjustments for immigration. So the jolts, and that's hitting in the report, like it's just, you got to look for it. I don't know. I don't know where to find it. Like I don't see the report. I'm, it's, you know what I mean? But these people are MBS, so that's what they do, right? So they dug through this thing and they showed us the charts, and they found how they came up, where these 517,000 jobs came on. And the way it came up with it is somebody decided that because of all the immigration into the country, they were going to, new jobs somehow. Nobody really knows the logic because this thing is hidden, but they were actually expecting the number that they looked at, the real number without the seasonal adjustments that they put in. The real number they were expecting was a 500,000 job loss. Right?
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
that's the real number.
Okay.
But then when they added these numbers, they just pick a number out of the air and throw it in there because of illegal immigration. That's what they said. That's how the adjustment is for. It said that 3,000 new jobs were created.
3,000 or 300,000?
3,000.
Okay.
300,000. Wait.
Okay.
There was a loss of. They said that. Hold on.
Loss of 500,000.
There were loss of the. They were expecting a loss of 500,000. Okay. And when they put the seasonal adjustment, after the seasonal adjustment, it was actually a gain. Sorry, they were expecting a total number. Hold on, because I wasn't prepared for I wasn't thinking about this, so I didn't. Let me make sure I get this right.
Yeah.
They were expecting.
Pull it up if you have to.
Yeah, no, I just gotta get in my mind straight. They were expecting to be a loss in the entire job number of 2.5 million. That's what it is. They're expecting negative 2.5 million, and they got 300,000. That's what it is. They got 3 million. So they're expecting 2.5, right? They added the adjustments, and that number jumped to 3 million.
So that's why we ended up.
They came up with 500,000.
Okay.
And I'm rounding down because it was 517, right? So it's not exactly, but they're like, oh, 500,000, and they just plucked that 517,000 and threw it in there, and it created this big chaos, right? So it did not make sense. It did not make sense. Not like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, 1 and 1 was not adding up to 2.
No, 1 and 1 was adding up to 3. And then at the same time, like a week later, in another sort of area of news that I was kind of reading, this is on my personal side, like a hobby, right? I wasn't reading financial data. This was just general kind of information, kind of just keeping up with the things that I kind of keep an eye on. And there was I found this, the story of an official that I happen to know, and I happen to kind of know the situation, and this individual was leaving his government job to a brand new job that's paying a whole bunch of money. And I said, this doesn't make sense. Like too much money, too much money, like in the multiple millions a year. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Like
as a what? As a CEO?
Yeah, I got
Okay.
So I mean, off record, I'll tell you, but like public, I won't. So anyway, it just made too much. It was too much. Like it just didn't make any sense, and that kind of just stuck in my mind. And whatever, like just okay. It's like one of those. If you remember who Arsenio Hall was? You don't know who Arsenio Hall is.
Yeah.
You know Arsenio Hall?
Yeah.
So he had this show, like things that make you go things that make you go and that's one of those. You know what I mean? So that's kind of happening, and then a couple of weeks after, in another completely separate news. I'm watching a news program, and it's a financial news program, blah, blah, blah. And I catch the guy like, well, the previous person that had this job, that's so, it's kind of shady. And I'm like, huh? And he went and gave it a whole different perspective about the new job and tied it to the jobs report. And I said, wow, that's incredible. Like I was like, wow. Like, because I put all three together, like, the job, the 517, it just came out of nowhere. Like, it was just, nobody was expecting it. Nobody was looking at it. There's nothing that pointed to that. People couldn't figure out. They're still talking about it. Oh, that 517 in February. Like, the economy's resilient. And it's so, so, I mean, so I see that. And this, it's sad, honestly. I mean,
see in that statistic, all of these jobs in all of these places where there are jobs available now hiring, right? And jobs are being offered. Does that include, like, let's just say the fast food joints that are saying, hey, $13 an hour?
It includes everything.
Any job.
It includes they include how many job openings are there, right? But the problem is, and they're coming out and saying, like, if you see the Fed, like, oh, the job market is resilient. The job market is resilient. It's still like job creation and this. What's happening is that data is not real. Like, they're looking at data that's not real. Mm-hmm. Because if you, I mean, one of the problems in the model that they're using is, now that people work remote, companies advertise jobs in different states. Mm-hmm. So, there could be a company hiring a remote position, and they advertise it in 10 different states. So in the data, that pops up as 10 different jobs, 10 new jobs, but it's not 10 jobs, it's just one job.
And then what about the jobs that are being promoted to hire people from overseas? Does that count too?
I do not know the answer to that. I don't know if they include that in the data points or not. I haven't seen that
gotcha.
Broken down that way. So I do not know if that's into the account or not. What's in the account, nationally is, part-time jobs. So mm-hmm. you got to look at when the data reports come out, you look at the data of the jobs, but then you also have to, at the same time, they also do wage growth and hours worked. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right. So you got to look at both numbers, because you can't, if you look at them separately, I mean, you could, jobs, you look at one number and not the other, you don't get the true picture, because if the hours worked reduce, right? So like if the average works are not 40 hours a week, 30, 38, 37, 34, 32, like that's what's been happening. The mm-hmm. average works have been reducing. That means is people are working part-time.
Yeah.
And if people are working part-time, and so that means two things. That means
the earning $1 or $2 more per hour, but getting cut on your hours.
Well, it's more than that. It's like, because what happens is double counting. Because if a job opens up but it's a part-time job, or a person takes a new job but it's a part-time job, mm-hmm. because the hours, you see the average hours work, it's not really a new job. It's the same person working two jobs.
Yeah.
It's not two people working. It's the same person working two jobs, because now you can't afford to live. It's so expensive. You got to get a second job to be able to feed your family. So yeah, and they count that as two jobs. That the government has created two jobs, but it's not jobs. It's the same,
That's like saying I got two jobs, each earning $10 an hour. So what does that mean? I make $20.
I make $20 an hour. Exactly.
No, you don't, because you got to work those two jobs separately. You can't be at the same place at the same time.
Where I come from, that's called fuzzy math.
And that's all that mental math.
Well, how it is, man, and that's how the sad part is.
That's the logic, the poor logic.
But people follow that.
Yeah. And if I got two jobs at $10 an hour each, that means I earn $20 an hour.
Wages are going up, and I'm, you know what I mean? It's crazy, and it's not both parties do it. It's not one party over another. It's just it's sad, and people kind of and people follow this stuff, and we're like sheep. You know what I mean? I'm not a like, one of these, conspiracy theories. Like, No,
but it's sad to say, but it's true.
But the data's there, man. I mean, it's just there. And if you don't, so what does that mean, right? So, you have this nut at another financial news channel that I do not watch. I I can't stand to watch it. I want to throw up in my mouth when I listen to him speak. So I do not watch it. And and she's saying there's a housing crash. Market's gonna crash. There's a housing crash. Showed yesterday the headlines. Tiny 0.2%. But the mean price at the beginning of the week, huge drop. The market crashed because the mean was, she gives out incorrect information. So you got to, so you have a buyer, right? A potential home buyer, somebody's paying rent, struggling, trying to survive, keep their family, paying rent, and they watch the news and they got this idiot on saying, oh yeah, the crash, and and throwing out numbers that are not true. Now, if the numbers are true and she's giving correct information, then she's providing correct information, but she's not. She has a bias. I'm not sure why. I don't understand, I don't know the reason why. But she has a bias, and she's saying housing is bad in real estate. I guess she's been saying it for 10 years. Real estate is a bad investment. I mean, and that's her position, and she has certainly she's entitled to her opinion, and that's fine. Problem is, she's in a position of quote unquote power where she has a voice.
Do you think she's entitled to her opinion, or she's getting paid to side, for propaganda? Paid for propaganda.
Right, you know what I mean? Yeah, probably a combination of both. Who knows? It's just incorrect information. Like it's that if a person that does not know, have any other information, and hears that from a person who's on the news, who's an anchor on a financial show, and that's the only sort of source of news that person listens to, and that says there's a crash coming, don't buy a house, stay away from real estate. What is a home buyer going to do who doesn't have any other information? Let me stay away from this. I mean, that's what, I'm not, rates are too high. Forget it. I'm not going to buy a house. Meanwhile,
so the lead that I sent you the other day, what was his response to the refinancing factor?
He just said he talked to his wife and there was too much money. And
too much money. What was too much money?
It was too much money. I talked to him. I asked him how much. I spoke to him. I asked him how much it was. He told me the price. I talked to my wife. It's too much money.
Oh, too much money for the unit that they were interested in.
They're interested in buying.
Okay, correct. Not. He didn't discuss the cash out refinance or anything.
He didn't let me. I said, he told me that you're looking to maybe do yeah, but it's too much money. And so okay. I mean, let me know if you have any questions, and that. So because that's what happens. I mean, and it's the same thing, right? It's that person did not have all the information.
Yeah,
they were blindfolded. They didn't have the information. They just saw a number, and because you know what? If you can't afford it, you can afford it, right? That's not just perfectly fine. I mean, but you need to have the correct information and have the proper math to be able to make decisions. You cannot make decisions, especially on an investment of the magnitude that is a real estate house, to just kind of go by with what you see in the news. I mean, it's just it reminds me, there's this commercial, like there was this campaign at some point, like don't believe everything that you see online. There's and there was some guy that a girl is with with her boyfriend. They're walking and they run into a friend of the girl, right? Oh, my friend, me and my new boyfriend. It was just kind of tall, goofy guy. He's a model. And he's a model from Europe that I met on the internet. Like, and the other girl's like, sure, he's a model. It's one of those, right? But she saw it online. It must be true. It must be a model. So people really believe that what they see online, online is true.
Jay-Z said, believe none of what you hear and only half of what you see. All right, so check this out. For the sake of it being Friday, right? We're gonna do real quick. I got 5 random questions for each of us, but I haven't looked at them, and you haven't looked at them either. I'm gonna send them over to you. Let me see. I'm gonna send them over to you, and we're each gonna.
These are random questions from what?
Just random about it being Friday, and being that Friday is the favorite day of the week. We're each gonna answer 5 random questions about favorites.
Okay, so it's not questions like that somebody sent you and asked you, like that's what I'm.
No.
Well, you're coming up with the questions.
Yeah. These are.
Got it. Okay.
Well, no, I didn't come up with it. Chat GPT came up with it.
Oh, got it. Okay,
And
got it.
we're just doing this just to end the week off on a personal note and on
Okay, so it's like a
any
test
type of,
from it's a test from AI. All right.
just the AI
You're
segment.
putting
Yeah.
some, are you emailing it to me?
No, I texted it to you.
Oh, okay.
So you're gonna answer
Where'd
the
you text it to?
uh
Where'd you text it to?
I texted it to I texted it to myself.
I can read it.
Right.
There we go.
There goes
Okay.
one.
Oh, okay. Got it. All right. So you pick the question and we'll both answer it.
All right. Well, there's two sets of questions. So we're each gonna answer a different set. All right. So
Got it. Okay.
I'm gonna ask you the questions first. All right.
All right. That's fine.
All right. So what's your favorite type of music or artist? So this is the five favorite 5 Friday segment.
All right. So my favorite type of music, there, I have, I would say if I had to put my life on the line to pick one, is salsa.
Salsa.
Yeah.
Right, cool.
Just
How
like I
would you
love salsa.
describe? How would you describe what genre would you put the intro that we have for right now? What would you label that as?
It kind of has a, conga kind of, salsa beat to it. I'm the good Lord. So here's the thing, right? I told you my technology, right?
Yeah.
Lord was giving out that task. I was late, so I didn't get it. Right, the technology thing, the eye, like ear for music and the voice didn't make that session a lot. I wasn't late. I just didn't show up that day. I overslept and I didn't go get that. So I have zero, like, I'm tone deaf. I know the songs. I don't, but not. So I don't even. I just know it's kind of sounds like it's up, but not.
When was the last time? Do you? Since you enjoy salsa, do you go salsa dancing?
Oh yeah. My wife. Well, my wife and I would both love to dance.
When was the last time you guys went out for a salsa night?
At the cruise, when we were just at the cruise,
Oh, okay. They had salsa
at the
on
cruise.
the
Yeah, they had it's boleros, had a like Spanish thing so we were there every night. Yeah. So I have bad knees and bad ankles, so my current state limits me a lot to how much I can dance. But back in the day, we used to dance a lot. So that's definitely my salsa. But I like kind of 80s music, rock. I'm kind of I don't have it. I don't know anything new. So there is anything that especially I mainly listen to Spanish music.
Okay, so
and all these
the Mustang EV is blasting the Spanish music.
Yes, and all these like classic rock and 80s and that kind of oldie stuff. Any like non-Spanish music that's new, you could stop me on the street and say, "I'll give you $1 million if you name the #1 song in America today." I have no idea. I couldn't tell. I have no God's honest truth. I have no idea the name of a performer or the name of a song. No clue.
Yeah.
So I'm boring when it comes to that. Listen, how about you? So are you doing the same? You're doing a different answer.
I'm doing a different set of questions, but I'll tell you this before we go on to the next question. My favorite salsa is chips and dip.
So you got a lot of rhythm, I can see.
That's the bad joke of the day. All right, what's your favorite childhood memory?
My favorite childhood memory.
And when we say childhood, we're gonna go ahead and go for 12 and under. So as far back as you can remember.
I would probably. I don't know if my favorite, but it's a memory that it's very vivid in my mind. Is when we were coming to America. When I was 11, and I was coming to America, right? And
did you know any English before you came to America?
Not a word.
Not a word. And what was the okay, so check this out. I was at the office in Kissimmee the other day, right? And we were having a 3-person conversation, right? It was myself, my significant other, and a third-party vendor, right? And we were talking about language barriers, right? And you know how Chinese, obviously, we can't understand Chinese, right? I made the analogy that when you're speaking to someone who speaks a different language and you're trying to catch on, even Spanish, right? When a not so Spanish speaker is speaking with a Spanish speaker, right? Like for instance, I understand Spanish way more than I speak it. And then I could only imagine people who don't speak Spanish, right?
Mhm.
When they're listening to someone speak English, it's similar to when you're on the phone, right? And the reception is not so good, and you only catch certain words, but you
Yeah.
can't put together.
You can't put it together.
Like,
Absolutely.
what was your experience when you came to America and you're listening to people speak English, but you don't know it yourself?
Oh, dude, it's so you know, like now I laugh at people nowadays. They complain about, you know, inclusion and racism and all these things, and you know, and now like you don't need to speak Spanish to survive here in Florida. I mean, speak English. You can survive. If you don't speak no English, you can survive. You can get a job. You can do anything you need, right? Everybody speaks Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
It was 1982. January 31st, 1982 is when I landed in the, you know, my life changed forever, and I landed in this country.
You guys flew or took a boat?
Flew. No, we flew in.
Okay.
So, and my dad, he was here before we were, and he worked in textile industry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And back then, textiles were still a thing in this country, and he got a job in Maine. So we lived in Maine.
Okay.
Biddeford, Maine, which is a little town way up like in the boondocks. Like we were the only Hispanic family in the little town, and there's a lot of French Canadian.
Was it a town where everybody knew everybody?
Probably. I didn't speak any English, so I have no idea, but I'm sure they did. I mean, you know what I mean? I'm sure they did. It was just a very small town.
And what about your parents? Were they educated in speaking English or not yet?
My mother spoke a little bit.
Mhm.
My dad did not. My mom spoke a little bit, broken English, but not much.
So
She was the one that kind of led the thing, right? So she did everything because she could communicate.
Okay.
So there was nobody spoke Spanish in the entire, like in school. So I was in school. They put me in school. So I was like a little alien. You know what I mean? I didn't speak a word of English. I had no idea what people were saying to me. There was this lady who was a teacher of some sort, much older, and she was French.
Mm-hmm.
So she had a Spanish and French dictionary, and she obviously spoke English, but I have no idea what she said in English. So she would look at the Spanish-French dictionary, and because she spoke French, and she would tell me the words in Spanish with a French accent.
Oh, wow.
I had no idea what she was saying to me. I had no clue. Like I would go by, like I would spend days, and I lived in this environment. Things were happening around me. I had no idea what was happening around me. Like,
Were you an only child?
I'm an only child. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah. And then later on, when we moved into Boston. Now now in middle school, I speak a little bit, like broken English.
Mm-hmm.
It was the same next year, like next school year. It wasn't that, so I could communicate, but still very broken and not properly. And then I had to, that was a whole different set of obstacles. I encountered a lot of rough situations, let's say. Where I had to kind of fight my way out of it.
It picked and poked that.
Yeah. So there was a lot of that going on when I was in the middle school. So that was definitely challenging times. Very different than now. Like I hear kids complaining and people complaining about how rough they have it. I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about.
So did because you're fairly tall, right? Were you taller than the majority?
Yeah.
Okay.
That helped me, and I was pleasantly plump, let's say.
Yeah.
I was big-bodied.
Okay, so did you guys fly straight to Maine, or did you come to Florida and then hop over to Maine?
No, it was actually, landed in Boston, and then Boston went to Maine.
Okay. So what was I guess that being so vivid, was there a lot of anticipation before coming here? Like,
It was
was
for yeah.
your family in Colombia was excited for you guys? Like, oh
it
my,
was
like it
yeah,
was a
and
big
so
deal.
and like I remember my grandmother used to say that I was going to New York. Like I was moving to New York. That's what she
So,
said.
so,
Like,
so her America was
it was
just
New York. Yeah.
Nueva York, Nueva Life.
Yeah. It's like I was going to New York. I didn't really know the difference, and so I was excited because I only saw like my image of America was what I saw on TV. Starsky and Hutch and Streets of San Francisco and Kojak. Those were the things I used to, SWAT. Those were the TV shows I used to love when I was a kid, and they were
Yeah.
obviously from here. So that was my image. It was all LA, like all California, right? But that was my image of the the United States. And then snow. The first time I saw snow, that's actually you know what? It's when I was a kid specifically. The first time I saw snow. This thing's gonna cut out pretty soon. So
okay, so we'll make these quick. All right, what's your favorite quote? 5 seconds.
liars figures don't lie. That's one.
That's a good one. What's your favorite way to relax or unwind after a long day? And why does it work?
My favorite way to unwind: sit down with my wife and have a conversation.
Nice. Do you guys drink wine?
We do, but it's not. Yeah, coffee. Like we do, but it's not drinking part of it. It's the just sitting and chill. So we morning, afternoon, sit in the line, have a cup of coffee, and talk.
Gotcha. What's your favorite piece of technology or gadget, and how has it changed the way you live your life?
I don't know if it's my favorite piece, but the phone has definitely changed.
Okay.
The way the east and having everything handy, but I don't know if I wouldn't call it my favorite, but definitely changed how everything.
Why isn't it your favorite?
Probably because I don't know how to use it.
But it's handy.
I got two of them. I got a work phone and a personal. I got an iPhone and an Android. I got both of them, and I just take calls and send emails and send texts. I mean, I don't utilize it to its full potential because I don't have the time to sit down and learn and play with it. So,
gotcha.
All
right, so we're gonna do my questions in 5 seconds or less.
All right. So I'm asking you.
Yeah.
I got to ask you from the other set.
The other set.
What is your favorite book or movie all time?
Okay, The Alchemist is my favorite book. Movie. A movie that I could watch over and over again. American Gangster.
What is your favorite travel destination you visited, and why is it so special?
And Amsterdam.
And why is it so special?
Most harmonious place I've ever been to. I did not see any or experience any confrontations between humans. Period.
Really?
I saw the most confrontation that I experienced or saw or witnessed in Amsterdam was a dog barking at a bird.
Wow. I've never been to.
Super amazing.
I've been to Amsterdam on a layover. On my way to Russia. And that's the only place I've been to on that side of the world is Russia.
Yeah.
Amsterdam was just at the airport, so I've heard really good things about it, but I've never been there.
I loved it.
What is your favorite dish to cook or eat, and what makes it so delicious?
Dish to cook or eat? I mean, pizza. And I don't think I have to explain what makes it so delicious. To cook, I love cooking breakfast.
Where's your favorite pizza from?
My favorite pizza is in Kissimmee at the Pizza Italia.
Forget about it. You haven't had good pizza.
Best pizza ever. I don't care what anybody says.
You gotta go. You gotta go up north and have real pizza.
Well, where next Friday?
Actually, we gotta meet up and go to this place in Kissimmee and see. I'll see if it's
Yes.
It's not the same. I don't know if it's the water here. I don't know, but it's not the same.
All right.
Chinese food and pizza are definitely not the same here in Florida than up in the north.
Oh yeah, I agree with the Chinese food, but Pizzeria Italia, Kissimmee, Florida, my favorite pizza.
All right, we gotta go check it out. Yeah.
Shout out to Kevin Stewart for introducing me to it.
All right, we gotta go check it out because I haven't found like pizza yet that I'm like, ooh, this is like.
Yeah, well,
I've tried it because I love pizza, but haven't had.
Yeah, definitely.
Not in Chinese, like. Should open up a Chinese food restaurant.
Right. I'm down. Chinese food always makes money.
Oh yeah, especially the good one.
Right. All right. So last two questions and then we're off.
All right. What is your favorite hobby or activity? And how did you discover your love for it?
All right. My favorite hobby is recording music. I discovered my love for it because it was something that I was willing to do anytime. Without I don't have to, that's one of the things that I'm down to do, whether I'm making money or not.
Cool. And what is your favorite historical figure or celebrity?
Historical figure. I'm gonna have to say Napoleon Hill. Qualities or achievements, his clarity in thinking. And what I admire most about him is his influence and you know, with the ways that Think and Grow Rich. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was gonna let's finish talking. I just say, think and grow rich. That's all you need to know. Absolutely. Cool, man.
Yeah.
That's cool.
All right. So with that said, thank you everybody for tuning in. We look forward to coming back next week and understanding those numbers, those reports, the okay, hold on. Hold on. The PCE
It's coming out today.
report is coming out today. We'll be going over it on Friday
On Monday.
sharing on Monday. And
so right. You heard it here first. We'll see.
Heard it here first.
We'll see. There's a potential for that number to come in lower than expected and have an impact on rates.
All righty then. So Robert Morillo, broker associate with Team Aroa at Compass, Florida. License number BK3373543 with extraordinaire John Sepulveda.
John Sepulveda, MLS 1309244. Signing out.